Education system. Canadian education system. Canada, the northernmost country in the Americas, is characterized by a combination of sparsely populated provinces and territories, a handful of large vibrant cities, and an active embrace of large-scale immigration. The country, which shares the longest international border in the world with the United States, is bilingual, with French and English both recognized as official languages. It is second in size only to the Russian Federation. Canada has the world's third largest oil reserves, a high standard of living, and a colonial history. Its economy began to see modest growth in 2014, after a slow recovery from the global economic recession that began in 2008. Access on-demand education in Canada webinar. Among all the countries in the Western Hemisphere, Canada is particularly notable for its pro-immigration stance, which seeks to address two key challenges: labor shortages among highly skilled workers and an aging populace. A recent report by the Conference Board of Canada estimated that Canada needs to increase immigration rates to 408,000 annually until 2030 in order to ensure future economic growth and fiscal stability in the face of accelerated population aging. The inflow of immigrants is the primary factor driving an anticipated population increase from 36.3 million people in 2016 to a projected 51 million people in 2063. According to recent medium growth predictions by the Canadian government. A text box describing Canada's points-based immigration system. To ensure that the country receives those who can contribute to the economy and skilled labor market, Canada actively seeks out skilled immigrants. Employing a points-based immigration system that prioritizes entrants based on educational attainment, prior work experience, language skills, and age. Canada's embrace of immigrants contributes to its growing reputation as an international education destination. In 2016, the country ranked as the seventh most popular study destination for international students in the world, according to the Institute of International Education's (IIE) Project Atlas. Many analysts expect that Canada's importance as an international study destination will increase significantly in 2018 and beyond, particularly in light of political changes that have diminished the appeal of other countries, most prominently the US and UK, which have traditionally been leading English-language higher education destinations. And despite a history of policies that sometimes encourage and sometimes discourage international enrollments, the country has, most recently, implemented policies that ease pathways to permanent residency for international students.
International student mobility, inbound mobility. The number of international students studying in Canada grew by 92% between 2008 and 2015, from 184,155 to 353,000 students.
According to the Canadian Bureau for International Education, CBIE, 1, some reports suggest that, in 2015, an additional 90,000 international students pursued short-term language studies in Canada. The growth is driven by enrollments from China and India, which, between 2006 and 2015, increased by 182% and 513%, respectively. 2. Enrollments by Nigerians have seen exceptional increases in recent years, growing by 25% between 2013 and 2014 alone. In 2018, enrollment numbers are expected to spike even further. The University of Alberta, for instance, reported an 82% increase in international graduate applications in 2017, and a 27% increase in international undergraduates' acceptance of admissions offers. International student acceptances of admissions at the University of Toronto were up by 22% in the same time frame. An overwhelming number of international students tend to go to just a few destinations. In 2015, for instance, fully 86% were enrolled in universities in the provinces of Ontario, British Columbia, and Quebec. 3. Canadian tuition fees are the lowest among the Big Four English-speaking destination countries: US, UK, Australia, Canada, making it a top draw for students from around the world, including the United States. According to the Globe and Mail newspaper, currency exchange rates in January 2016 meant that U.S. undergrads paying with U.S. dollars pay, on average, about $15,000 a year in tuition in Canada. In the U.S., by comparison, the average tuition cost for one academic year at a public college was $23,893 for out-of-state students. 4. Despite this cost advantage, enrollments of U.S. degree students at Canadian universities have remained relatively constant in recent years. They stood at 8,049 in 2013, according to the UNESCO Institute of Statistics, UIS, and have changed only marginally over time. Many universities in Canada reportedly experienced a 20 to 80% growth in student applications from the U.S. for the 2017-2018 academic year. Speculation that U.S. applications will spike in the future remain unproven. In recent years, the United States has not even ranked among the top 5 senders of international students to Canada, reaching number 5 only in 2015, when the other top senders included China, 34%, India, 14%, France, 6%, and South Korea, 6%. The next 3 were Saudi Arabia, the US, and Nigeria, each of which supplied about 3% of Canada's total international enrollments. 5. Why they come. Immigration is dramatically reshaping Canadian cities, particularly in immigration hubs like Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, which also attract far and away the greatest numbers of international students in Canada. In fact, if current immigration levels hold steady, government estimates predict that immigrants' share of the country's population could swell from 20.7% in 2011 to 30% in 2036. By that point, almost 1 in 2 people in Canada may be either the child of an immigrant or a first-generation immigrant. These demographic changes are a draw for international students. A survey by the Canadian Bureau for International Education, CBIE, found that educational quality, Canada's multicultural society, and perceptions of safety top students' list of reasons for enrolling in Canadian institutions. A clear path to residency and citizenship is another draw. In 2016, the Canadian government made two moves that could increase the nation's appeal among international students. First, it revised its express entry visa program to make it easier for international students to apply for permanent residence. International students will now receive points for academic credentials earned in Canada. The change is expected to increase the percentage of international students among those invited to apply for residency under express entry from 30 to 40%. The Canadian government also introduced legislation that would ease citizenship requirements for international students. Both of these policy changes are in line with Canada's 2014 International Education Strategy, which positions international students as a source of skilled labor that can help to compensate for an aging labor force. Outbound mobility compared to their counterparts from other countries. Canadian students are relatively reluctant to study abroad. Outbound student numbers have remained flat in past years, holding constant at about 49,770 degree students in both 2015 and 2016, UIS. Only about 2% of Canadian students studied in degree programs abroad in 2016, more than half of them in the adjacent United States, UIS. One of the biggest mobility barriers for Canadian students, and the main barrier cited by 80% of 7,000 students surveyed by CBIE in 2016, is cost. To help address this problem, a number of governmental scholarship programs have been initiated at federal and provincial levels. In 2014, the federal government, for example, launched the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Scholarship, funding the exchange of 1,500 students from Commonwealth countries with $40 million CAD over 5 years.